physical and others are purely mental and some are different and sort of in between and whatnot, that there you'd come to figure out pretty quickly like that you can have a second life with somebody in the dream space, and that there's probably some level. I mean, everybody in this town was cheating, everybody was having an affair with someone else, and
Yeah.
my guess would be that that is probably more common in a place where that is highly energized. Like we think of it as we think of like people who live in backwater small towns, they sleep with each other's uncles and cousins and everyone's sleeping with everybody. What if it's because there's like some weird underground plant or some location that is just creating this crossover in realms, and so you develop a connection with somebody in another one. There's nothing wrong with that. Like whatever people, I don't have the I'm not the best person at like directing my dreams or highly exploring them. Like I have interesting ones sometimes, but like my guess would be that like, we're free to do things in the dream world that we probably wouldn't do in our real life, and there's nothing really wrong with that. But if you're having those interactions with the same group people or the same groups of people over and over in the dream realm, at a certain point, it becomes more difficult to separate the
Sure.
layers,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there starts to be some resonance, even if there was none. Because like, what would be the resonance between like a teenage boy and the woman who's in her 40s or 50s who's like a waitress at the diner, right? Like, why would she be interested in him? I mean, maybe it's normal for him to be interested in her or whatever, right? But if this weird stuff is happening on another level, suddenly it's like, well, let me check this out, see what's going on here, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's something you might not ever think of on your own, but because there's this like other realm that has a different set of sort of like rules or mores or physics or whatever about it, you find yourself in connection or in story with someone who you otherwise wouldn't, and then you bump into that person in real life, and you're going to make more of that connection than you would otherwise, probably.
Well, and the vibration of, to circle back to what you said about trafficking, drug trafficking or human trafficking, the vibration of those things is very charged.
Mm-hmm.
So it's drawing a lot of energy or creating a lot of energy in that space. So it's possible that people that are living in that space are aware on a subconscious level or a spiritual level that there's some nefarious shit happening in their community, and we're all just kind of Stepford wifing it and acting like everything's fine, but the layer underneath that is this hell realm or this very dark place.
But the Bookhouse Boys, the secret society that we get introduced to, I think in the second episode, maybe, they seem to be aware of this because
Right.
their job, which seems to have been passed on
Yeah.
over generations, is to sort of keep an eye on this dark force that seems to be centered in the forest.
Yeah.
So they're aware of it on some level.
Yeah. And did you notice that Laura wasn't afraid to run into the forest by herself when she's with James, like right before she gets killed, and she jumps off of the bike and she's screaming like, I can't, James. And just basically, it's almost like she loses her mind and goes
Mm-hmm.
running off into the darkness.
I don't
Oh,
remember that
okay.
part.
So they pull up to the intersection, and she hops off the bike, and just like, it was really weird. It was like they were at that weird, like, it's like a half intersection kind of
So
thing.
A stop.
track?
Yeah, sort of. It seemed like that could be that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And she
Yeah, no,
screams, I love you, James.
and just runs off
And
into
just
the
runs off into the night, and that's right before she gets murdered.
yeah.
Hmm.
So what you were saying about the drugs and stuff, like, I think that wherever you have, did you watch the TV show Stranger Things?
Mhm.
Okay, so there it was like the large thing that created large energy field. The way that when there's something going on that is causing a disruption in the fabric of space and time,
Yep.
then for some reason you find drugs, you find titty bars, you find Hell's Angels. They're all there. Are they like there's a connection? And Chris, you and I talked about this in our episode as well. Like, these things seem to. It's kind of like, did you ever watch on the like Nature Channel when they send those weird things that look like UFOs down to the bottom of the ocean.
Mhm.
And at the bottom of the ocean, on the ocean floor, there's a secondary ocean of more highly salinated water where all the creatures have set up their little homes on the coast of it, like they're living on the beach in the ocean on the ground, like, right? Like, just like we are attracted to places that we feel, oh, I like the vibe of this place, I'm going to live here. It
Yeah.
seems like this, whatever this sort of nefarious thing is not just attracted to like city blocks in Amsterdam or Las Vegas, though you find an element of it there, but they're
Right.
always attracted to these like weird places off in these kinds of locations we're talking. You'll always find Hell's Angels. You'll always find like some very strange, like topless bars or strip clubs or brothels, right? And you'll always find cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, all of these
Mhm.
kinds of things in areas that wouldn't seem the natural place for them.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is people who are living in proximity to these locations are experiencing unusual sensations and experiences, and they either like those and want to feel it again, or they find those uncomfortable and they're trying to find something to settle their system, right? So and you have all of these like distorted behaviors of like over drinking and sleeping with people who aren't your wife or whatever, or wanting to ride motorcycles fast, or wanting to climb, like my brother got really into tagging and like doing dangerous tagging, right? Like crawling out onto creek. Like there becomes this like need to feel that exhilaration again and again and again. And I think it's increased in these types of locations. Like you get used to the crazy.
Well, there's a saying in the Bible. There's the story is about these people that are walking through this very dangerous part of the mountains, and it talks about hiding your light.
Mhm.
Because you want to hide your light, whatever torch or whatever you're carrying, you want to hide your light because you don't want to attract negative energy. So if this is a place that has a lot of negative energy, anything that is light is going to draw that negative energy's attention. So I think that's very possible that that's one of the reasons why your Laura is involved in these things, is that she's been lured in by this negativity. This negativity is again using her as some kind of a source, and she becomes a conduit for people going across the border and people having sex with her. So I think there's some element there too where there's the good Laura, the good light energy, and then there's the dark Laura who is basically like vampiric. Like she's feeding off of the people that are engaging with her when they go to this one-eyed Jack's place. So she's not just this innocent in this. There is this duality to her where she's being used, but she's also using.
Yeah.
So I think the only go ahead. Yes.
No, I just I didn't have anything to add too much to that, but I wanted to bring up like the sexuality of the young girls. Kind of circle back to that because Audrey, she really used her sexuality a lot with the men.
Yes.
She wasn't over at One-Eyed Jack's, but you would have thought she could have been because like how she approached
Well,
Cooper.
she tried to go later. Remember, she went over there a lot later.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, she approached Dale Cooper. She approached the Swedes or whatever, whatever they
Norwegians.
were. The Norwegians.
Yeah.
And she used her sexuality in a way that it was kind of obvious, but it was also almost like expected, or not expected, accepted, tolerated, like the community around her kind of influenced it,
Right.
and drew it out in a way.
You
That exchange that you were talking about, like with Laura.
You totally nailed what my next comment was. When Audrey goes to high school, she changes from saddle shoes to high heels.
Mhm.
Big ones too.
So and she's smoking at her locker.
Mhm.
So she's engaging in these very hypersexualized behaviors, and again, using that sexual energy in a place where it's not necessarily appropriate. So saddle shoes in front of her father at home, in front of her mother, but when she goes into high school, then she ramps up her sexuality.